Welcome to the first for 2024 Books and Banter podcast. My name is Marcia Spence and I am your host, and I'm the director of Marcia M Publishing House. My special guest today is the remarkable, phenomenal woman. I call her Miss Allyson Ingrid Williams MBE. And if you don't know her, you're going to get to know her. She's the author of an amazing, nostalgic, passionate book called Tell Me Something I Don't Know. It's her autobiography, and it is about a life of love, passion, purpose, and success. In this conversation, I'm hoping that we're going to find out about all of those factors from Allyson's remarkable life. Allyson, welcome.
Thank you very much, Marcia. Thank you for inviting me to do this podcast.
Oh,
I've
thank
been looking forward to it.
yes, yes. Me too, me too. It's been a little while since we've caught up. So this
Yeah.
book was launched in November 2023. So it's been November, December, January, 3 months. So
Yes.
we're 3 months in, and yeah, I'd like to find out. I mean, we'll start with what's been your experience since, this last 3 months of becoming a published author, having your story out there and getting feedback. I know it's a very nerve-wracking time.
Yes, it has been very nerve-wracking, and it's
Mm.
been very, the accolades and the praise and the
Wow.
encouragement and etc. from so many people. It's very new to me because although I have worked hard and I have an MBE, and
Mm.
that has been the biggest acknowledgement of my life
Yes.
because it's a recognition from your peers that
Yes.
they have accredited and recognized your work as
Mm.
you worked alongside them. And
Mm.
that is something I found out, and that is something I would always cherish.
Mm.
Although it's similar, it's been very, I don't know, amazing, truly amazing.
Amazing.
And I mean, as you know, the book took 10 years to get to this point,
Yes.
simply because I never thought anybody would be interested in anything about me.
Mm. Wow. Wow. But yet 10 years ago, you started writing.
Yes, 10 years ago, I'll tell you the story. 10 years ago, I met this professor at in a group. I was asked to join the group to help contribute to developing a charity.
Mm.
And he was very good at it. And because of my health service experience, etc. And we talked for many times after and before many meetings. And we had meetings at my home all over to do this work. And one of the times he said to me, "Have you ever thought of writing your autobiography?"
Mm.
No, never. Well,
Mm.
who's interested in reading that about
Mm.
about my life and my experience? He says, "You would be surprised."
Yeah.
And I said, "Why do you think so?" And he said, "Because your love and your passion for everything you do, everything you get involved in, is so tangible. And
Mm.
I love the way you speak about your life with your husband and your
Yeah.
children. And I
Yeah.
think it would be really something that people would resonate with or be inspired by." And then
Absolutely.
he said, "I tell you what, write me a synopsis of what you think you could put in a book
Mm.
about, highlight certain interesting things in your life." And so I did. I wrote about 3,000 words. And
Mm.
at the end of the sections that I put like life in Trinidad, life in training as headings,
Yes.
life in the NHS, life
Mm-hmm.
at Carnival,
Mm.
etc. And as I got to the end of each chapter or line, some lines I put, "I can write at least 1,000 words about this," and I kept
Okay.
going. I
Yeah,
kept doing
brilliant.
that all the way through. I can write so much more here. And I kept saying, as it came to me, and I realized I really did have a lot to say.
Mm,
And so he commented and gave me some very good feedback and said, I think if you ever do this, it's a potential bestseller.
mm, yes,
And I
yes,
thought, oh, wow. I said,
yeah.
it's so good to have someone have such faith in you. And
Mm,
that was it. It just got left. I just left it alone because
mm,
I didn't have that confidence. I didn't have that, there was so much else going on in life.
yes.
And I was, still trying to keep involved and trying to do all sorts. And so I never thought of it. But when my family and I have been involved in the Notting Hill Carnival, and when we got to 40 years, which was 2020, I
Mm,
started putting together a tabletop book
right.
um, in celebration of Genesis Mass Band, which is what we're called. And it got very, very emotional because, of
Mm,
course, this was 2020, but my husband had passed away in 2002. And,
mm.
and he was
Wow.
very, yes, he was very encouraging about telling me I should find the time to write it. It would be good reading, etc. But I never paid him any
Mm,
notice either.
yeah,
So
either.
with the carnival, it was very emotional for me. And when I started tracking people and trying to get information, it was
Mm-hmm.
so it was so difficult because nobody had the time. It took me like 2 years to get the person I chose to write the forward to get something from her.
Mhm.
It's
Okay.
just, how life is, I suppose. And
Yeah.
um,
Mm-hmm.
and so I decided, oh, I'm going to give this a break. It's just annoying me and frustrating me. And then
Mm.
the book came into my head.
Wow.
And I thought, you know what? I don't have to wait. That's exactly what I said to myself.
Yeah.
I don't have to wait for anybody to tell me anything about myself.
You can just write it.
I can just write and I will
Yes.
leave. And once I get through my journey, etc.,
Mm.
I can go back to
Yeah.
Genesis and I think it would be easier. And that's
Yes.
how I rationalized it in my head.
Brilliant. Brilliant. That was wisdom.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so that's how I started it. And of
Mm.
course, just as I was thinking that, I saw this advert at the Tabernacle about
Right.
this lady, this Marcia
Marcia
M
M. Yeah.
Publishing, and
Coming to
I'm giving a
London.
free master class about
Mm-hmm.
how to write. And I
Mm.
thought, God, the first thing I thought, oh my God, a Saturday morning at 10
I
o'clock.
know.
Oh.
I know.
And then I
Yes.
thought, you know what? I'm going to go to this. I'm
Yeah.
going to go to this. And the
Yeah.
rest is history.
History. Yeah.
I was just so impressed. You made it
Mm.
sound such a wonderful journey.
Mm.
You
Mm.
made me really start to think about it. And of course, as you know, a couple months later, we started the process.
That's right. Wonderful. Yeah, and it has been a wonderful, wonderful journey. So we're keeping everyone in suspense, really. We know that you worked as a midwife and we've heard about a bit about the carnival. So what is this book about, Allyson? I mean, I'm just gonna raise one thing. Working with you on this book, there were so many relatable experiences that you had that I thought I was the only one that would have these experiences. And you know where I'm going with this, Miss Allyson. So I thought I was the only one that had a Brooklocks episode in my childhood. Allyson, can you just tell us a bit about this whole Brooklocks thing because it's your
Brooklyn,
book. So Brooklocks. So I won't tell my version. You can tell yours.
I know. Well, this
But
was
this.
one of my life lessons. About being I was very strong-willed, and
Mhm.
quite a few people have commented on, my goodness, you were a little badass.
Yes,
Because
exactly.
I was very strong-headed, And when
Yeah.
I wanted something, I would go for it. When I felt I had, a genuine ability to do something, I would
Do
take off
it.
and do it. So we went, my parents had a friend called Mr. Neville. We called him Mr. Neville. And he lived opposite with his two children. He didn't have a
Mhm.
wife.
Mm.
And he was a taxi driver. So he
Yeah.
took us before mommy ever got her car. He used to take us everywhere. He'd take us to
Mhm.
church, to school, anywhere we wanted to go, to weddings and pick us up again. Anyway, and we were always very close with him. And my brother and I went over to his house for dinner with his children to play.
Mm.
And so we were playing very happily, and I spotted this tin um, on the table somewhere. So I said, "Oh, what is this?" Because it
Mm.
looked like it had sweets or,
Yes.
or something in it. And I opened it, and it was these beautiful layers of chocolate, what looked like chocolate. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought, "Oh my goodness, this is lovely. Chocolate. I love chocolate." So I called him Mr. Neville, and he said, "What's happening?" And I said, "Can I have some of this?" And
Mm.
he said, "No,
Oh,
no, you can't."
said no.
He said no, and he took it away. No other explanation. He took it away, and I saw him put it in a drawer.
Mm.
So, I was all upset, and I thought he wasn't very nice and what have you.
Mm.
Anyway, we kept on playing, and we had dinner, etc., etc. And then suddenly I saw my moment, and I went into the other room, into the drawer,
Whoa.
took out the tin of chocolate, and I broke off two
By the way.
bits.
Yeah. Yeah.
I, I And
Ah.
so by the time I got home, a few hours after in the evening all night, I was vomiting. I was sick.
Yeah.
I was vomiting. I didn't know what had happened. Mommy was very worried,
Mm. Yes.
me to the hospital. And then she said, "Oh, I'll go and see what Uncle Neville said."
Mm-hmm.
Because my brother wasn't ill. And how come Allyson was the only one that was
Yeah.
ill? So she went and he said, "Well, no, we all had the same food and we all had
Mhm.
the same thing." And
Yeah.
suddenly he said, wait a minute,
Mm.
wait a minute. And he went into the dining room of his house,
Yeah.
opened the drawer, and he says, I
Uh,
know what is the matter with her. She stole two pieces of Brooklax,
yes.
thinking because I had said to him before.
Because
He
you'd
said, "But
asked him for
because
it. Yeah.
I'd asked him for it, and I said, it looks like nice chocolate. Can I have
Chocolate.
some?"
Yeah.
And he said, "No."
Wow.
And so he said, that is what happened. She stole
Oh,
because I told her no.
no. And it
And
served you right.
yes,
Serve you
well,
right.
exactly what my mother said. Serve you
Boy,
right. And
you
I
know,
got the licks to prove it.
you get the licks.
The
Well,
beating.
I know it's so much like my story. To cut a long
Yes.
story short, I found it in my parents' drawer. I was there with my brother. I ate some. I ended up ill, had to go into hospital, just so ill. And they're wondering how come my brother wasn't ill. And he said, "Oh, she ate all of it and she only gave me a little piece." Same thing, same thing.
I
Strong
know.
headed.
Well, yeah, I didn't even tell my brother. I just
No, did it
coughed it all
yourself.
myself. And so after the licks and after I felt better, I had
Yeah.
to go back and apologize to him.
Apologize, of course.
And he
Wow.
said, apology accepted. He said, but you have to understand you're a little child.
It's
And
true.
when you're told no, we mean no.
No, for a
Otherwise,
reason.
things like this happen. You suffer the
Yeah.
consequences of not listening to adults.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, imagine, it could have
Yeah.
been something that killed you, but it could still kill you. I mean, I ate the whole pack.
Oh,
So
God.
I was dangerously ill from it. So yeah, it's one of those things you must learn. And if you don't learn, you will
You
feel.
feel.
So what I enjoyed with your story, Allyson, is what age are you now, by the way, if you don't mind?
76.
Wow, 76 years of age. And what I love is on the front of your book, there's a picture of you are you 5 years old? Is it a
Yes,
5-year-old girl at the
yes,
front? And what this book does, what your story does, is it takes the reader right back to you at this age and
yes,
tells us about all the, what childhood was like in Trinidad.
yeah,
And, just another thing that stuck out for me was your mother's bottom drawer.
yeah.
Tell me about her bottom drawer.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's funny you said that. I was just telling a friend that
Mm.
I have to turn my bottom drawer around because I started using things from it and, it's depleted.
Oh, well, you
And
see, you
yeah, she
just
was
can't
telling
help
me.
going in bottom drawers, can you?
Exactly, exactly. But
Yeah.
she had this drawer. It was so beautiful in the
Mm.
chest of drawers with all her things. The other drawers had her slips and bras and panties and
Mm-hmm.
underwear, half slips and full slips, and as we used to
Mm.
use in those days.
Mm.
Um, and I always, used to ask her what it was about, and she said, "Oh, it was special." And I
Yeah.
said, "What do you mean special?" And she said, "You always have to put something aside
Mm.
for an emergency. If you have to go somewhere with strangers, that you're always looking your best."
Mm.
And so
Absolutely.
she had these negligees, she had these capes,
Ooh.
little woolen capes, she
Yeah.
had night dresses with
Mm.
matching dressing gowns, she had some panties, and she
Mm.
had this perfume 4711. So
Evan.
first I used to open the drawer and stare at this thing. It
Yeah.
smelled so wonderful.
Yeah.
And
Wait,
then
you stared at it. When did you get to smell it? When mom was wearing it or when you sprayed it?
when I took it, yes, I the first time I saw it, I just left it alone, I think.
Mhm.
But at one point, I did have to smell it, and so I
Yeah.
opened it and just sort of splashed it. Oh my God, you could have died
Mm.
from the smell. It was so strong,
Strong.
but it was, I just had to have the
Yeah.
experience.
Experience. Oh, that's wonderful,
Yes,
wonderful,
yes.
wonderful.
Oh my
And there's
goodness.
just lots of, I mean, I know that, reading the book, I feel like I've been to Trinidad, and the food, my mouth, I always start salivating because I want the food, but
Yeah,
it's one of those books that it's so, it's just a delight, and you can connect with the actual environment that you're in because you're so
yes.
descriptive in your writing. I want to move on a little bit now and just because part of the subtitle, it has love and it has passion. And you're telling what I love with this book, you're telling your story, but there's another storyline going on, and there's this love affair, and this love affair with Vernon, isn't it? Vernon, and the love of your life. And so tell us about Vernon. Mm.
Oh, Vernon, he was a spectacular human being. He was just so different and so laid back and so honest and so funny and
Mm.
really charismatic. And um and
How
I
did you
met
meet?
met
Yeah.
him so interesting because I had already planned and booked to go to because I'd finished my midwifery in September
Mm.
1974, and I was going to New York in December for Christmas and staying to do the state board exam because my mother had been trying to persuade me all the years I was there when I finished to come and join the family.
In America.
Yes,
Yeah.
because well, that was another part of the story that the family had gone to live in America, had left Trinidad. But I wasn't eligible because I was coming up to 21.
Hmm.
And so she was saying, "Oh, we could be a family all together again now that you've got your qualifications. That's what you went for, and you can
Yeah.
join us and work here, but you have to do the state board exams."
Okay.
And so I had never done psychiatry in my training.
Mm-hmm.
So I was going to do, there were 5 parts to the exam. You had medicine, surgery, obstetrics and gynecology, pediatrics, and mental health,
Okay.
psychiatry. So I was going to do the 4 parts, and so we were, and my mother was going to do it as well, because I didn't actually even realize when that she had only been working as a nursing assistant all that time.
Okay. Okay. Mm.
Would come and we would do it all together, and so she was doing the exams with me,
Okay.
and yes, and she wanted us to study together, and she'd got all these old papers and multiple choice questions and so on, and we were going to
Mm-hmm.
go through them.
Mm-hmm.
And um, and so I was working night duty between September and December so that I could get the long holiday, and I was going to resign anyway as a nurse.
Okay.
And I because I was working as a nurse, and then when I come back, I would do the do the diploma in psychiatry,
Mm-hmm.
and then the next December 75, I would go and join the family, and that's it. I would sort of sever ties with London
Mm.
initially, and in November, I met my husband. I came off night duty, and I met a very old friend who used to be in the party circuit with us. And she said, "Oh, lovely to see you. I was going to phone you later because we lived around the corner from each other.
Mm.
And I've got some friends coming from Germany. Oh, and I'm going to cook. Would you like to join us?" And I said, "Oh, wonderful. I don't have to cook myself. So I went home, and this is 8 in the morning. I went home, had a little sleep, and I went to her about 2 o'clock. And we
Mm.
finished, we did all this amazing Chinese food.
Oh.
And we, the 4 of us,
Oh, you know I'm
yes,
a foodie.
yes, her children, she and I,
Wow.
and the 2 guys from Germany. And I was so fascinated with them because I never knew the Trinidadians who lived so far afield,
Mm.
Germany.
Yeah.
Little did I know that we're all over.
All over
Anyway,
the world.
yes, so they said, oh, they would love to take us to this birthday party. And would we go? And we said, yes, of course we'll go. So we arranged that they would come and pick me up in a taxi. None of us drove. They'd pick me up
Mm.
in a taxi about 11 o'clock. And so when I left about 7 o'clock, they left as well. And they said they were going into Finsbury Park to look for alcohol, some drinks to take to the party.
Mm-hmm.
And so we said, fine. So Shirley stayed and got ready. I went home to get ready. They went to look for booze. And I got dressed to kill. And 11 came and they never turned up. 12 came and they never turned up. And so I rang Shirley and I said, what's happened to these guys? Have they got lost? They've forgotten, they got lost in London. And she said, I haven't heard from them.
Mm.
And about 12:30, so I said, well, they must have changed their mind. They must have gone by themselves. I'm going to take my clothes off and go to bed. Let me know if you hear from them.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I was in my night dress and dressing gown, and my doorbell went, and it was the guys apologizing profusely. And
Right.
what had happened, they had forgotten, that London was in the dark ages in 1974.
Mm.
And once the shops closed, 4 or 5 o'clock, it's very hard to get alcohol in London in those days.
Right.
So they ended up stopping and starting and stopping and starting all their way to Leicester Square
Mm.
before they could find an off license to buy booze. And that was the delay.
Mm.
And they said, please, 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 you must come because Shirley is saying she's going to bed too. And I said, all right. I will get dressed. So they left me to get dressed again. They went
Mm.
and picked her up, and then they came back in the
Came back for
taxi.
you.
So we got
Wow.
we got to this party about 1:30 in the morning
Right. And where was the party?
in Hampstead. And
Uh-huh.
it turned out that I knew the host and hostess. The hostess was a nurse who worked in
Right.
my hospital,
Mm-hmm.
and her husband was very popular, very well known with all of us.
Mm.
And then, so that was fine. I met lots of people I knew. I danced and danced, and then I wanted to go and find her because I hadn't seen her for a little while. And I found her in another room talking to these two men. And Marcia, it's the most incredible sensation. The minute I saw him,
Him.
I had this, like I had no limbs. I went numb. I went tingly.
Ooh. Wow. You got hit by some fire.
Oh, it was the most. And I thought, what is this rubbish? What is this?
Wow. Wow.
What is going on? I saw him and I thought, oh my, I'd never seen anybody look like that. He was
Mm.
all right. He was, nice looking, but there
Yeah.
was about him that was
Something.
amazing, so charismatic. So
Mm.
she called me over because I was just going to wave to say, well, I've seen
Yes.
you. But she called me over. And
Okay.
I was just looking to see if you're all right where you were. And she said, oh, I'm chatting with my friend Dan. And she
Mm-hmm.
introduced me to one of the guys, not my husband.
Yeah.
He started telling me he'd just come back and he was an actor and he'd just come from Jamaica and the Bahamas and what have you.
Okay.
And so we chatted idly.
Mm-hmm.
And I am thinking, oh my God, she hasn't introduced me to this man.
Mm-hmm.
How do I get to talk to him? How do I get
Yeah.
to
Ah. Wow. Keep
and it,
going. Keep going. I'm feeling hot myself.
and it suddenly hit me. And I turned to him and I said, and what did you say your name was?
Mm-hmm.
And he just looked at me and said, well, actually, I didn't.
Oh, okay. What a rebuff. What did
I
you feel? How did
I
you
just thought,
feel?
oh my goodness. I just felt so, dismissed
Yes.
and I thought,
Yeah.
well, maybe he's not as nice as he seems to be.
Mm. Yes. Mm.
So I just said, well, Dan, nice to have met you. And well, I just looked at him and I just said, oh, all right then. And I
Mm.
just turned to Dan and I said, lovely to have met you. Shirley, I'm glad
Yeah.
you're all right. We'll catch up later.
Yeah.
And I went back with some friends I was hanging with and we
Mm-hmm.
were dancing. And, the two guys
Yeah.
who were come with us, all dancing. And,
Mm-hmm.
and as I got to the door, I felt, they tap on my shoulder.
Okay.
And and I looked around and it was him. And
Okay.
he said, could I have this dance, please?
Okay.
And that was it.
And the rest is
The
history.
rest is history. We were married.
History.
He got ill and passed away. We were together for 28 years.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful.
It was so beautiful. It was such a
Beautiful.
strangest experience. And in the book, I wrote it and said, I never believed in all this love at first sight rubbish.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I am living proof it exists.
It exists. Wow. Wow. Amazing. And look,
It was,
look at the smile on your face. They
I,
say that you can't tell the power of a man until you see the smile on his woman's face. I don't know if you've ever heard that. It's something
no,
like
I've
that.
never heard that.
But I'm
Really?
just thinking, I'm just thinking every time you speak about him, the glow, and it's been how many years since
I
he
know,
passed
I know.
away,
Passed
but
away.
it's not that feeling will never go.
Never, never. It never has.
Oh,
It's remarkable. I
yeah.
mean, don't get me wrong, we had our arguments and
It's
quarrels
normal life, yeah.
in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and the funny thing was that when he used to recall the story to the children,
Mm-hmm.
oh, laugh and laugh. And he used to say to them, when I saw your mother,
Yes.
I couldn't breathe. I couldn't. Yes, he said I
Wow. That's
couldn't
why he
breathe.
couldn't
Yeah, but
that's
that
why he
even,
couldn't.
and I was so rude to her. All that
Yeah.
could come out was this rude, cheeky,
Yes.
a
Yeah.
response. And
Oh
when
my
he
goodness.
used to tell them, and when she went, she turned her back and she went out the door. The
Oh
bottom,
wow.
the bottom was still coming out. She got out
Wow.
the
That is
room, but the
crazy.
bottom was still following. They used to laugh, and every time they
Oh
wanted,
my gosh.
he would call
That
and say,
is crazy.
come, let me tell you how I met your mother."
Oh wow. That is just
Lovely.
funny. That is wonderful. And your children, you had two children, Kevin and Simone.
Yes.
And again, I can just see the legacy.
Yes.
So there's a message in your book. And there's a couple of messages actually. One of your sayings was, well, you were adamant you would only marry a Trini man. And then what I gained from your book as well is that you are you believe very strongly in Caribbean Trini family values. So just you've touched on your children and telling the story to your children. So firstly, why was it important to marry a Trini man only?
Um, because I wanted my children. I used to say to my friends that I would only ever marry a Trinidad. When they asked me why, I would say because I wanted my children to be brought up as though we're living at home. I
Yes,
wanted my children to understand the legacy. I wanted them to be very, very steeped in our culture and
yes,
our way of life. Because, I hadn't really had much experience, but it was interesting that following saying that and marrying a Trinidadian,
yes,
I discovered a lot of friends who had that problem, whose parents were different from different
yes.
places. And so none of the children ever got involved in either of their parents'
Oh,
homeland
really?
and didn't know much about their
So they
background.
just knew more about the UK rather than,
Yes, yes, they're born and
wow.
bred here, but they never got
Mm,
involved or never went back. And
mm.
in contrast, I know of families who that was all they did every minute they had. They took their
Go
children,
back home.
they
Yeah.
go back home, Jamaica or
Mm-hmm.
Barbados or the Caribbean. And
Mm-hmm.
and the difference I found in how these children related. And I felt, and I always used to say, that I loved Trinidad. I loved the way I was brought up.
Yes.
And I didn't have to run away for any reason,
Mm.
because they're always talking about Windrush
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
coming
Yes.
because they couldn't do any better. They had to get a job.
Yeah.
They have to look
And I
after
don't
them.
think that's necessarily true for
That isn't true either.
everyone.
But it's
No.
what was always ingrained in people, or
Yeah.
that is what the first thing a lot of
Yeah.
people heard. They were
Because,
coming here for a better life.
yeah. But the thing
This is
is,
not true.
for uh, you know, for an individual to be able to take the steps and afford to travel all the way across the
Yeah,
world to
yeah,
another,
yeah.
that's got to be, the people have got to have come from some substance to be able to
That's
afford to do that and
so,
even
so true. The
have the,
courage.
yes, and even have, yeah, and have that aspiration, have the insight and the ability to make it happen. And so yeah, I've been discussing that with some other people lately, that it actually very much, the people who came are probably like the middle classes, or the people who actually had something to offer to this country.
Yeah.
And
And
so it was,
aspired
yeah,
to greatness themselves.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And so it was part of many people's career plan. And I know for your story, it was your career plan to
Yeah.
become a nurse and a midwife, and that's what you did, and that's what you did. So I just need to ask you, gosh, wow, when we get together, we don't we really talk. We'll have to do a part two to this. So, you know, I want to go to the title now. So you became a midwife, you became actually very senior, you were in management
Yes.
across, your borough or trust or wherever you were working at the time. But that phrase, tell me something I don't know, because this is the title of the book.
Yes.
Where did that come from? Just tell
I
me about that.
I know. I mean, at the time it came out of my head. I don't remember if I'd ever seen it before. I
Mm-hmm.
I think I might have heard it before.
Yeah.
It was something that just came into my head at the time when I was
Mm-hmm.
getting thoughts about your blackness and your dirty and
Yeah.
how high up are the trees that you build houses on? Do you go to the bathroom in the bush? You
Mm-hmm.
ride on donkeys. And I
Yeah.
used to be amazed at these people. I thought, well, my whole school life was based on the English system. Where have these people been?
Yeah.
They sound
Crazy.
so ignorant and
Yes.
so unintelligent.
Yeah.
And then I remember along the way, people telling me because it's only the poor and the lower classes that came into hospital. All the others went to nursing homes and
I
private
see.
middle
Yes.
class,
Yes. At that time.
were nursed in their
Wow.
own homes. And so you hear that kind of story as you went along. But it just came to me one day when I thought, and I had called my
Mm.
mother and I said, listen, I can't stand these people. They're so ignorant, they're so
Mm.
stupid, and these are the things that they're saying.
And they would tell you that you were black, wouldn't they?
Oh,
You
yes,
black
so
this, you black that,
black
you're
that,
black.
yes, and don't touch me, your dirt
Yeah.
will rub off.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know,
Wow.
and the N word sometimes
Yeah.
quietly they would say, oh,
Yeah.
bastard, black bastard, because some of
Yeah.
them were quite old. And,
Mm.
I mean, later on, I realized they didn't know what they were treating, but they had dementia,
Yes.
but they,
Okay.
they came in with
At the
other medical
time.
problems.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you had to really care for them. And, it was just awful. But to hear it every day and to hear it
Yeah.
have your
And
work
and
appreciated was
yeah.
awful.
And you
And
have to care for these
yeah,
people who are
yeah,
verbally abusing you.
yeah, yes.
Wow.
And then it just came to me one day, and I
Mm.
just said, I was almost shouting with a
Yes.
high-pitched, hysterical kind of voice. And
Mm.
I said, I'm sick and fed up and tired. And I know that I am black. I have been black for 21 years. I will
Mm-hmm.
always be black.
Be black.
So tell me something I
Something
don't
I
know.
don't know.
And
Wow.
that just came into my head, and of course, there was silence. Nobody
Mm.
could say anything because there was no answer to that really. And I
No.
mean, even the staff used to. They were not racist as such, but they did some very discriminatory things as you
Okay.
went along. But they just kept telling the patients that they have to put up with us. They have to get care, and if they didn't want the care, they can get their relatives to leave, to take them out. They can
Oh,
leave.
okay.
That was their sort of response. There was
Mm.
no reprimand of any other kind. But
No.
because they were ill patients and you had a duty of care to make
Yeah.
them better, I suppose. So they got away.
Mm.
And one of
Mm.
my girlfriends, um, who lived in Nottingham, had the same thing happen to her. And one of the staff said, before you, what one of the girls did was to take her photo album on the wall and show them how, what Trinidad is
Right.
like and how you live.
Yeah.
And so I did that.
Educate them.
Yes, I did that initially. And,
Mm.
and they were flabbergasted. They didn't think we had indoor toilets. They didn't. I said my mother had her own bathroom attached to her bedroom with a
Yeah.
bidet. And they would say,
Yeah.
with a what?
What's a B-day? Yeah.
A
Yeah.
tiled bathroom. And
Mm-hmm.
it was, I was brought up like that. So, and they
Mm-hmm.
were flabbergasted. We had cars and concrete houses, and all the houses were separate. You know,
Yes.
very few, the blocks of flat buildings that looked like blocks of flats were hotels.
Yes.
In the city, not where people live
Mm-hmm.
necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
So in those days, at least, and they
Yeah.
were quite flabbergasted. But
Wow.
what it did, I mean, the racism and the taunts like that never stopped. But what it did at that point, and when I told you when I called my mother and said I couldn't stand
Yes.
these people, and she
Yeah.
said, "Listen, racism is their problem.
Yeah.
You deal with it. Find a way to deal with it." Um,
Mm.
but there is no point you coming home to do nothing.
Yeah. Just
And,
persevere and
yes. And so that is how that came about. It was, going around in my head, what can I do? What can I do? What can I say?
mm,
And
mm.
that is what it came out as.
Wow. Wow. That's brilliant. Powerful.
Yeah,
And what can they say back to you? Yeah, they can't tell you anything else because
exactly.
you already know you're black. Yeah.
And I'm
So
proud of it.
yeah. So I know while we were working on the book, you reached the age of 75, actually. You hit
Yeah.
that milestone. So how have you celebrated life since then? I know that you went on a special holiday. So yeah, how's life been once you reach that milestone of 75 years, 3/4 of a century?
I know it's absolutely dumbfounding, because I
Mm,
have my grandmother lived to 89, something like that,
mm-hmm,
wrong 80.
mm,
We sort of lost track of counting. But my own parents died quite young. My father died at
okay.
60, and my mother
Oh,
died at 70. And my
oh, wow.
sisters, one died at 40 because she had a very aggressive form of lupus,
Yeah.
and another one died at 56,
Wow.
my baby sister.
Wow.
So when it was coming up to me reaching even 70, my brothers,
Yes.
they used to ring me and, "Are you well? Are you doing well? We want you to reach so
Oh,
so badly because
yeah.
you would be the longest lifer
Yeah.
in our
Wow.
immediate
Yeah.
family."
Yes.
And they were so proud, and I am so proud, and I just
Proud.
give thanks and
Nice.
praise.
Yes.
But, when people say, how do you think you achieved that? And I said, well, good living, good heart. And I was born and bred in the Caribbean, sun
Yes.
ripened.
Yes. Unripened. I love it. I love it. And
Yes,
so
I
you're
think it
in
might be somewhere in the book. I said I was sun ripened.
unripened. Beautiful. So you're enjoying this kind of this age, this phase of
Well,
your life and being the longest living so far of
yes,
your
it's like I'm
family.
a late bloomer.
Yeah. Oh, what a blessing. What a blessing. Maybe all of that
It's
pinching
been
the
wonderful. Yeah.
pinching the Brooklaks and the perfume, it all actually helps. Yeah, maybe. And laughter. I mean, you laugh so much, you enjoy life. So what do
Yes.
you do in your spare time? What or do you have spare time? Because I know you're a very busy
Oh
woman.
gosh. I do all sorts, anything. I do a lot with the family, with the grandchildren. I belong to a Tabernacle Seniors tea group.
Mm-hmm.
I go there every Monday. I just came from there, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were going about 9 years, 8 or 9 years. But
Mm-hmm.
in the beginning, we used to be very active. We go to the theater as a group. We go to Brighton. We go to different, have different trips. We
Mm.
have people come and talk to us, and we've been featured in different magazines and what have you. And we have an annual Christmas dinner for friends and family at the place. So that keeps me busy. I also dance. I
Ah,
dance. I have been line dancing for about
ah.
15 since I retired in 2002. I've been
Mm.
dancing for most of that time. And
Beautiful.
I really love it. I really enjoy it.
Mm.
And
You
then
enjoy life.
once or twice a week after school, I have my grandchildren. Well,
Mm-hmm.
my first granddaughter is in uni at the moment, so
Okay.
she doesn't come as often, but my grandson does.
Yes,
Yeah,
lovely.
I help run the food bank at church. I'm
Great.
also I'm also a trustee at the in the London Diocese of the Mothers Union.
Oh,
So,
wonderful.
and I also edit. I'm the chair of the Faith and Policy Group, and I also am the editor for the biannual newsletter, news magazine.
Wonderful.
So all of that keeps me, quite
That's
busy. And
so
then
good.
Carnival. June, July, and August has been Carnival
Mm-hmm.
for many, many years. It's busy time. I used to say, after August, I would go back to work for a rest
Yes.
because I,
So
I,
busy.
yes, I was lucky because a lot of the staff they used to love giving me holidays in August because I used to volunteer to work at Christmas. And I
Mm.
thought, that was a good compromise. So for many,
Yeah.
many years, I had holidays in August, but it was absolutely exhausting. And I stopped
Mm.
doing it
Yeah.
because you get relied on so much for everything. But I enjoyed it immensely when I
Mm.
was very tired.
Oh, that's
So
lovely.
I'm still
Allyson,
doing,
it's wonderful. Wonderful to
and I'm
talk to
also
you.
I'm also still a trustee at the Notting Hill Carnival.
Oh,
Carnival
wow, wow,
Limited.
wow,
A
wow.
trustee at the moment. So
Okay,
I
so you're
I get
very involved in the
yes, I get to do
organization,
a lot of speaking,
planning.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
speaking to the
Yeah.
media and so on.
Yes, I've seen you actually last year when Carnival was on, and you
Yes.
were, I think it was the Independent had something or some platform,
Yes,
and I noticed you.
I've been
I
in
know
British Vogue.
British. Oh, wow. Yeah,
Vogue.
tell us about. So we know that there's an article due coming out with your featuring you and your book, Woman and Home, is it called?
Yes.
Okay, so we're looking forward to that feature.
Yes. That's
And
nice.
I have to say to anyone who's listened and watched this podcast, just Google Allyson Williams. It's Ally, Allyson Williams. You can put the MBE or not put the MBE, or you put Allyson Midwife. You Google this lady. I Googled her and I was blown away. The amount of features and articles. And I actually mentioned it to you, didn't I, Allyson? And you
Yes.
said you didn't realize how much
Yes.
was on
How much
the
was out
internet
there? Yes.
about you. So, but the book, what can I say? I totally, it's beautiful, filled with, you can't see them all, filled with beautiful color photographs. And it's even got, listen, my favorite one, when Allyson was 75, she put her WhatsApp status photo on, and she has on a two-piece trousers suit, I think blue, with a red, um what do they call it? A red
YouTube.
bus, yeah, boob tube, showing her flat tummy at 75. So
Oh,
this
yes.
woman is so hot. She's a hot girl. She's a hot girl. She is wonderful.
Thank
Allyson,
you.
oh, you've been such a blessing to me to work with. You've been a
Thank
blessing.
you. Thank you.
And we're going to continue sharing your story. Please read the book. If you're able to put a review on Amazon, please do. But you can buy the book from the Marcia M website through our store. And we'll also share the link with the video as well. So yeah, thank you, Allyson. Thank you. We're going to end now because we'll never
Oh,
stop. We'll
yes.
never
Thank
stop.
you. Thank you
Okay.
very